Welcome back to the channel. I'm Charlotte Fairfax Wentworth. Today, we're stepping into a London recording studio in 1928 and into a detail most listeners miss entirely. A celebrated Chopin recording by Alfred Cortot carries not one, but two recording dates, months apart. It's a small anomaly, but it opens a much larger question. What happens when artistry collides with the limitations of technology? And why does the result still sound definitive? Let's take a closer look. Picture a London studio in the winter of 1928. The pianist finishes the final heavy chord of Chopin's Piano Sonata No. 2. The tension in the room drops, and the red recording light goes dark. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief. In the era of the 78 RPM shellac record, capturing a performance was a highly physical, unforgiving process. Shellac was the heavy, brittle material used to press records before modern vinyl was invented. A single, fragile groove carried the entire weight of an artist's reputation. But if you look closely at modern reissues of this highly acclaimed performance, you'll spot an administrative glitch in the fine print. The label lists two completely separate recording dates, June 5th and December 11th, 1928. This diagram shows exactly why early audio engineering was so difficult. To record a 20-minute sonata, a musician couldn't just play it straight through. The music had to be chopped up into 4.5-minute chunks, cut directly and continuously onto discrete physical sides of the shellac discs. Those two dates mean that somewhere in that June session, a take was rejected. Instead of a seamless capture, the artist was forced to return to the studio a full 6 months later to replace specific individual segments so the engineers could finish the work. Today, we expect digital polish, where audio is cleanly spliced to the microsecond. Yet this disjointed, interrupted, frankly stressed recording process produced a track that listeners and scholars still revere as a definitive interpretation. To understand why a flawed mechanical process yielded a masterpiece, we have to look at the man playing the piano. That man was Alfred Cortot. For Cortot, playing the piano was never an exercise in hitting all the right notes in the correct sequence. He prioritized the narrative. Timing, voicing, and human character mattered far more to him than raw mechanical precision. He approached a musical score as a living text. Instead of viewing the sheet music as a rigid set of physical instructions, Cortot treated it as something that had to be spoken, demanding that the performer act as a storyteller rather than a human metronome. This philosophy extended far beyond the recording studios of London. Cortot built an entire educational legacy in Paris, centered around exactly this kind of musical thinking. In 1919, he co-founded the École Normale de Musique de Paris. The school's explicit goal was to push back against the traditional conservatoire model. Cortot didn't want to mass-produce flashy, acrobatic virtuosos. He wanted to train complete artists who understood the underlying architecture of what they were playing. His mission was to cultivate teachers and thinkers. He knew that an audience isn't moved by typing on the keys. They're moved when a musician intellectually analyzes a piece of music and then translates that analysis into human emotion. Cortot translated this teaching philosophy into physical manuals known as éditions de travail, or working editions. These publications provided a total deconstruction of the repertoire, shifting the focus from simple repetition to structural analysis. This animation demonstrates how he forced students to dissect the music. By stripping away the flashy, ornamental notes, a player could see the underlying chords and voice leading. This intense focus on musical structure stems directly from his long-standing discipline as a chamber musician. He spent decades collaborating in a famous trio alongside a violinist and a cellist. When you play alongside string instruments, you learn collaborative breathing. You have to sustain a long-form musical argument across multiple voices. Cortot absorbed this entirely, applying a highly vocal, phrasing-first approach to his solo work. This brings us back to that split-date 1928 recording. When Cortot sat down 6 months later to patch the missing segments, his deep architectural grasp of the piece ensured interpretive continuity across the gap. His storytelling prowess overpowered the clumsy, disjointed reality of early recording technology. The poetry simply survived the machinery.
Modern classical training often pulls in the exact opposite direction. Driven by high-stakes audition culture and the expectation of curated perfection on social media, today's students feel intense pressure to deliver a mathematically safe, flawlessly clean performance. Cortot's legacy offers an antidote to this anxiety, giving today's musicians 3 practical rules. First, learn the score as a structural map. Understanding the skeleton of the piece provides a level of interpretive security that rote memorization can never achieve. Second, treat bars of music as speech. Every rest is a breath, and every cadence is a deliberate communicative decision. The notes must converse with one another. Finally, accept the historical reality of live performance. Taking genuine emotional risks means you will occasionally miss a note or scuff a phrase. That friction is the natural byproduct of trying to say something meaningful. True artistry refuses to reduce music to mere error avoidance. A flawed phrase that communicates profound human emotion will always outlive a perfectly executed phrase that has absolutely nothing to say.